Excuse me, Mr. Reyes? You finished scraping the gum off that lounger or what?
It's been a process to get here, right? Just like with everything, it's like, and finally seeing it out there and like the reception it's been getting.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's humbling and reassuring.
Yeah.
And definitely makes it easier.
No, for sure. Yeah, I have to imagine it's like all of this is like falling on your shoulders right now.
It is. But you know, it's unprecedented times. Like the movie, like we've dealt with harder things.
Yes. Yeah.
And it doesn't it doesn't bother me just because I know that they're out there fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
And they have my full support. And if it's to make sure that the future generations have a better work environment, so be it, man. I'll do whatever it takes to support them. That's why I'm rocking their shirt.
Yes, I love that. That's so awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, man. No, they're with me. They're with me.
Yeah. No. And I think like you just brought up a really good point, which is the fact that this film is really like it's speaking to the spirit of everything that is kind of going on at this moment. And
100%.
And it's something I don't think like a lot of us expected going into the film. Like, we were just like, we're expecting like a cool superhero film, little bit of a coming of age, but it hits hard there in a way I wasn't anticipating.
Well, I wanted it to be representative to the general Latino experience. I guess, of course, not every Latino experience is the same, and that's the beauty of the Latino experience, because we're not a monolith, right? But at least this whole spirit of resilience, of being able to still survive in the midst of constant erasure, and making ourselves heard and noticed, and finally finding a moment to show ourselves as the superheroes that we know we've always been. It's just a testament of this long journey of Latinos that we've had for centuries.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think that was, as someone, obviously I'm not Latino, but I was able to enjoy so much of the family dynamic. I never felt like I wasn't getting it. And I think that's like,
beautiful.
Well, that's a line that I feel like has to be hard to toe, because you could really easily make it very inside baseball. But I think between this and like something like Charm City Kings, you're able to show a very specific experience as a means to show a universal experience.
100%. I'm a firm believer that that in the specificity of our cultures also lies the universality of who we are.
Yeah.
And I think that we were blessed to have not only a character whose family and himself is Latino in the fiction world, but one having a writer who's Latino, who understands, who has lived with this family, who can speak for them, and casting actors who are Mexican, who come from Mexico, who have been immigrants themselves. Like, they are giving an honest, authentic experience based on the things that they have lived through. So by being able to hone into that, me being Latino, even the costume designer, Mayos Rubio, being Latino, you're not trying to be Latino doing the things that you do. You're just trying to be. And I think like having the freedom to just be, not the Latino that's approved,
right?
The Latino that we are, you find that there's more connecting points, that stories can be told differently to what the status quo is demanding.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess like seeing stories like this that I guess don't depict the Latino experience for you, how have you personally learned from other stories that are showing, where you're not like entirely sure of the specificity, but like you get the universality of it?
Like, I mean, Korean cinema has always spoken to me, and I don't have an ounce of Korean in my body, Same thing, like the cinema of Tarkovsky spoke to me, and I'm not Russian.
Yeah.
RRR speaks to me, and
well,
I'm
there's
not Indian.
which is that's a lot. There's a lot of that kind of just like the stylization in here. There's like those influences. I can feel.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like a lot of those movies, they speak to you because they're honest.
Yeah.
And they're trying to say something authentic and honest. So you don't have to water down who you are in order to reach other people. I think that speaks more about the receptor than the about the receiver than the receptor. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. You mentioned your love of Korean cinema, and I also know, like, you're a big fan of Japanese anime as well, and you can see a lot of that in here, specifically in the third act. As someone who, like, I was introduced to Blue Beetle through the Injustice games.
Yeah.
So seeing all that go down in the climax, I was like, oh my god, this is like a mini Injustice fight, like, taking place. Was that specifically stuff that you wanted to, like, invoke?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun trying to get what we liked, the greatest hits that we enjoyed from all the different iterations of Jaime Reyes.
Yeah.
Like from his first run in 2006 all the way to even Graduation Day.
Yeah.
Like we were able, like, okay, so we're gonna do the movie, the cinematic universe. Let's get everything that we like about it. Of course, we cannot put everything in one movie. That's why this is the first act of a bigger saga.
Right.
So there's so much more to be told from the Jaime Reyes story. That I'm really looking forward to. But yes, to your point, we definitely based a lot on not just the comics, but the Young Justice. And as you can tell, there's a couple combos from Injustice in the movie.
Oh, I noticed. Even like the way you change stages, you knock the guy over. I was just like, oh my god, this is giving me everything I want for that.
That's great. That means a lot to me, man.
Good. I loved all that. Speaking of just like the production of this, I was actually like really shocked to learn that you were working with a lot of like Ari Aster vets. In
Yes.
this. You've got Bobby Krlik, you've got Paweł Pogojelski. How did that happen? Like, did you know them beforehand?
No, I didn't know them beforehand, but I definitely wanted to work with people in this project in particular. I wanted to work with people that maybe have different sensibilities that are not, and that the studio will vet. Of course, I had a bunch of names. Some of them are not vetted, and luckily, I was able to convince them to work with Paweł. I like his approach with what he's done with Ari Aster, but also like with Nobody,
Right.
Fresh. Like he is very unique, and his films don't look the same. And I love that, even him being Polish.
Yeah.
He read the script and it connected with him. He is the farthest from Mexican.
Yeah.
And yet, none of the cultural specificities took him out. He was like, this is how my family was, just differently.
Yeah.
And he went through a similar loss. And the way that a film like Blue Beetle resonated with a Polish artist, that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And with Bobby Krlik, I was definitely looking for a sound that was not the sound expected of a superhero movie.
Yeah.
We wanted to hone into the nostalgia, that vaporwave aesthetic, synthwave approach to music, and homage to that Tangerine Dream soundtrack that we grow up, and kind of like bring it into this Palmetto City landscape.
Yeah, especially with Paweł, there's an artifice that he's really good at capturing, I think, in all of his work, and like specifically here, when you're trying to invoke those like nostalgic feelings, I think the way he moves the camera, the lighting, you use a lot of like really harsh, colorful lighting that I haven't seen anything to that extent in a movie like this in a while. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, like I guess if you could walk me through some of like the aesthetic choices, the lighting, just like especially with that red hallway fight, which is incredible, you know?
We wanted to hone into that neon energy that 80s Miami kind of like brought to power, you know?
Yeah.
And we wanted to, again, like the nostalgia was a key factor on how we wanted to interpret it. And we did a deep dive on VHS culture. You know, like old VHS movies and that whole retro wave approach. And Paweł came up with the colorist. He calls it the special sauce, which is a mixture of different layers that give this consumable VHS nostalgia. To give its unique voice and to make it also feel like it's something that I feel comfortable with, because it resembles the films that made us, but at the same time, it's futuristic in its own right, while still being grounded, right? Because even like using those bisexual lighting and all that stuff, it's not about, it's not a music video. It's like if you're walking down the streets of a metropolitan city, those are the lights that you're gonna get. So honing into like the the neorealism of it all, and embracing the colors of that. As you know, the camera captures it beautiful. It reflects so nicely on the suit as well.
Yeah.
Why not hone into it and embrace it?
One of the parts that I really liked was when he's walking up the steps to Cord Industries. It felt like you got a little bit of that Beetle sort of reflection on the water, and I was like, oh, that's really, really well done. So I love that.
Oh, thank you, man.
No, of course. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the suit itself, because like, we don't get practical suits like this all that often, especially with like the wave of CGI and like how easy it is to do it in camera. It felt like that was like a very like hard line choice. You're like, no, we need this suit to be practical because of what it brings to the table.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't crucify me for always butchering, but Totsugatsu style,
Yeah.
you know, the Japanese style, which is all like practical, and the suits are practical. Like, we grew up watching those type of shows. At least I did. You know, from Power Rangers to Goyer to Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
You name it. Like, for me, I wanted to play into that. And we also had the benefit that it was well advised by everybody to go practical. It's a good way for us to be able to maximize our budget, and also be able to do as much as we can in camera, so that all we can depend on CG and effects is to enhance it. Same thing with locations, right? We wanted to go on real physical locations as opposed to do this whole green screen dance, which is, you know, an art of its own, and it can be done. But we really wanted to hone into that style, and at the same time be able to amplify it and have Mayas Rubio design such an amazing suit that not only is an accurate, or tries to be an accurate representation of what's in the comic, but also has a lot of elements that come from a historical background, given that Mayas is from Guadalajara.
Yeah, well, actually, I was kind of curious about like the origin of, like, you know, the scarab and stuff, and how, because we get a little bit of that. We get like the hints that it's from another planet and everything like that, but we weren't given as much, which I'm assuming is why you have like two other acts kind of fleshed out for this. So I'm kind of curious how you view like this scarab's role in all of this as just like a
100%. Like,
you know?
this story is Jaime Reyes' story.
Yeah.
And we wanted to focus on Jaime and his family.
Right.
The scarab is the intruder, right? So by the end of the movie, now they're kind of like at that stage where now he can go into the new world, right? So if there's any questions, I hope to answer them and tell the whole story of the scarab. Because at the end of the day, sure, now we know Jaime's story and we know his family and his origins. I think for the next one, it's time to understand more what happened to the scarab, where he comes from, why he was sent, and maybe hopefully at the end, who they have to defeat. So we did a little bit of it in the title sequence. We wanted to.
I love all the Easter eggs in that.
Yeah,
it's just
it's
like
a lot.
there was a lot, and I was just like, oh my god, this is wow. Like, Dan Garrett's in the, you know,
Dan
so,
Garrett,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So it's like let's do this here, because we understand a lot of it, how it happens. But right off the bat, we wanted to tell the movie in a way that felt more like, what if Latin cinema embraces a superhero, like a Latin film with superhero elements. So that allows us to spend time, not be in a hurry, spend time with the family, get in love with them, know the people, know what they're losing, know what they're winning, how they behave, so that when that scarab attaches to him, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that. And now the stakes are getting more personal, and you care more because the family's already lived in.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, that just watching the film, not even just like, I mean, obviously the family dynamics and those relationships, but like when Jaime like arrives in Palmera City, just like the little details that are around, like, you know, they're like, I could tell you had a lot of fun kind of designing the cities, like, you know, the number one, I guess, was it the number one city for tax for like corporate America? So it's just little detail, like that made it feel so lived in to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wanted to show a Palmera City that goes through a lot of the woes that our communities go through.
Yeah.
You know, Puerto Rico is that city, and so is a lot of cities of Latin America. And even the challenges and the conflicts that the family faces or the community faces in the edge keys of gentrification and displacement, I think a lot of people can connect with.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do have to start wrapping up. My last question for you is, Bane. I know you originally went into this meeting pitching Bane and
Yeah.
you walked out with Blue Beetle. So
Yes.
I'm just genuinely from like a creative standpoint, what was it about like the origin of Bane, the story of Bane that really like drew you to him and were like, I really want to tell this story?
Well, like as far as Bane goes, like the comics that are about Bane's story, it felt like he's very misunderstood. Much like Carpax in the movie.
Yeah.
He is a product of his environment, and that history has been buried. The history of the Caribbean, the Antilles, like it's a history that's brushed off in history books, right? So for me, it was very important to be seen, and with the character of Bane, the formation of this, villain, I think in his own right, he's also a hero in his story. So whatever happens at the end that might have gotten distorted because of what was done to him, I think that what he represents is a lot of the unknown or forgotten or brushed under the rug history of interventionism in Latin America and the Caribbean. And that's why, I went in, I pitched Bane. They told me that's sweet, but we got this. No, it was. They didn't try me like that. It was really good.
Yeah.
Like they appreciated it, but the call was because they wanted to show me this movie, and I fell in love with the script that Garrett wrote. I felt that the script not only captured the essence of what it's like to have a Latino family, what it's like to be lost in this world, but be able to find yourself by not being ashamed of who you are, by embracing who you are with the power of family and community.
Yeah.
But while working on the character of Carpax, I was like, well, I don't know if I'll ever make a Bane movie. Let me take what I loved about Bane,
Yeah.
about the backstory that I wanted to explore, and let's give it to Carpax.
Yeah.
Because part of the idea was that maybe Carpax and Bane came from the same place.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Pago Island.
Yeah,
right?
right. There's a lot of stuff. Look, that was like, I do have to go, but that was like one of the parts of the film where I got hit. I was like, I was not expecting this level of depth from that kind of character.
Yeah, because
so.
we need it. Like
Yeah.
when we're introduced to the world in movies, right, where we are seen as villains, it's just given that we're born that way, right? And when we talk about the history of Latin America, nobody dares to question, well, what happened before this? Okay, well, what happened before? And more times than none, when you go back even before 1954, but if we want to go to 1954 in Guatemala, it was U.S. interventionism that drove these places to the misery that they're in. History is there. Nobody's trying to blame something. Nobody's trying to say anything. Just like, hear us out. This is our story.
Yeah.
And you know what? We can heal together. At the end of the day, we can all heal together if we recognize the stuff that has happened in the past and lift each other up in a way that I feel like the Reyes family lifts each other up. So
Yeah.
it's like, welcome to our stories. And the same way that we're welcome to other stories, welcome to our stories, and let's have a dialogue. It's beautiful.